Hi everyone, welcome to Hedgehog Hollows. So today I have a top tip that is highly requested by you guys. So we love those. If you have one, you can drop them in the comments below if you have a request. And we want to make it happen because we want you to find this content as useful as everyone else and me as well. And I really had fun prepping for this video. So we're talking about 3D embossing folders. They've been out for a while. They're thicker than your regular embossing folder. You know how they're a bit wiggly? Well, these are pretty sturdy because they're so thick. So this one is a Sizzix one. These two are Crafters Companions ones. So what I did was I want to share with you, first of all, the #1 tip, and that is to lightly moisten your cardstock. And here I've done a back-to-back comparison. So this is if you just put it through dry, you see there's a bit more cracking. It's some definition to my cardstock, but not huge amounts. Whereas if I moisten it slightly, I have a lot more definition. So this step up here is a lot bigger. There is still some cracking around the edges. I mean, it's paper, you're not going to get totally away from that. But I'm going to share with you my top tips for getting the best result you can. But it's just a lot more defined by making it moist. So top tip is moisten it. I'm going to show you how. So let me grab out some colored cardstock. We'll grab a few pieces. And I'm going to show you a few different experiments you can do. And I have a million ways you can customize these 3D embossing folders. And they look fab. So what I like to do is take my piece of cardstock and I just very gently, there is also a tool from Sizzix. It's a Tutera. I hope I said his name right. Fold and curl tool for his flowers. But all I want to do is just lightly do this. And the reason I'm doing this is it just breaks down some of those fibers in the paper and it gives you a better result. You think nothing special, my cardstock doesn't really look any different, but it does make a difference. You'll feel it's just a little bit more flexible. And then literally 2 light spritzes on either side. That's all you need. You do not want it sodden, anything like that. And then pop it inside your embossing folder. And I'm using a Gemini because it's the machine that I keep down here in the basement. And I already got my sandwich out from the book. So there is, when you get your Gemini, there's a whole book of sandwiches. So what you want is your clear cutting plate on the bottom. And then you want your magnetic shim. Then your embossing folder with this. And this only applies to 3D ones. The regular 2D ones, they have a different sandwich. And then you're going to take your plastic shim, so the see-through-ish one, the frosted one, and you're going to pop this through your Gemini. So when you've run it through your machine, it's going to look like this. See, look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Look at all that depth and dimension and detail. It's slightly damp, so you can see there's a couple of color variations, but it'll dry out really quickly, or you can heat gun it. But I just love all that depth and dimension. And if you do one of the Gemini ones, exactly the same. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to give a light spritz on either side. And actually, I prefer the distress sprayer for that, but I have one in my craft room. I haven't bought a second one to come down here, so. But the Nouveau one works fine. Same sandwich. Pop it through your machine. And your piece is done. That's how easy they are to use. And just that little spritz of water, what it does is it softens the fibers in your paper. It stops cracking. Like if you have a white core, it's not going to crack as much. And it just kind of just gives you a better result. So there's some science behind it, so Greg tells me. Okay, now I want to show you a couple of other, well, actually quite a few other variations that I prepped for you and things you can do. So one is the difference that color of the paper makes. So I had these two from Gemini, and I tried them out on different shades of paper. So you see the difference between the light and the dark. So this, I think, makes a really good background, whereas I probably want this more in the foreground because it grabs more attention. This one's double-sided, so, you know, the dots kind of alternate and things, so I think that's kind of cool. And then this is tumbling blocks, like the quilting pattern. Again, you can use it either side, but you can see the difference that putting it on light and dark makes. I think it really just pops differently. So the color of your paper is going to make a big difference. Now, what else can we do? We can apply ink to our surfaces. And again, it's going to depend how much ink you add. So again, on these, I did it slightly differently. So on one side like this, I applied very heavy ink. And the ink is super easy to apply. I'm going to show you in a second. And on this side, I applied very light ink. Again, you see how you just end up with a totally different result. And as I say, the ink is so easy to apply. So you just take a pad, a felt pad works best just because of the firmness of it, and literally just rub it over. Like, I'm not even pressing, I'm just holding it on top and allowing it to soak up. And that's the light effect. And if I want to go dark, I just do more. So you can just really easily build it up until you have the level of light and dark that you want. And you can also just do a stripe like this, very light, and you could just do, you know, so it looks very distressed. I mean, just, you can really play with it, but a nice firm felt pad is going to work well for doing that. So that's one way you can do it. I also tried out my oxide sprays. So I took Distress Oxide sprays and I sprayed it inside of here. Won't do it any harm. You absolutely can do this. And then I put my paper in. So rather than applying ink to it before I went, which you can absolutely do, you can just take your ink pad, do this, apply ink to it, and then run it through the machine. Again, it's going to give you a different effect to how this looks or how this looks, because that Distress Oxide pulls on my paper, on my piece here, and then transfers across to this. So again, you can try that option out. Then I got even more adventurous. I applied embossing ink, so I'll glue ink to my embossing folder. So rather than applying regular ink, here I applied purple ink in the embossing folder. I did this one over here, and then I ran it through. So again, you can see it's in those depressed areas, which you don't get if you do it like this. You see how you don't get this in here, you're actually only going to get the raised areas. So it's just a different effect again. So I applied ink in the embossing folder, put my paper in, off it went. Well, this one, I did the same, but I applied embossing ink to it. And now you can see I added gold embossing powder over the top. I think this technique is stunning. It almost looks like a mermaid scales on there as a background piece. So I can imagine lots and lots of different things working really well with that too. So again, 3D embossing folders are so versatile, and I want to show you ways to use things multiple different ways. I don't want you to buy something and then be like, oh, I can just emboss some paper with it, I'm done. I want you to be able to go, oh, well, I can add ink, I can add sprays, I can add ink in different ways. I can, you know, do all of these fun different things with them as well. So I hope you really did find this video useful with my top tips. Don't forget, everything I've used linked underneath below. And also you can check out our coupon codes down there. And if you want even more savings on your crafty purchases, hit that join button there. You'll get a birthday card, you get the extra savings, you get to join the Hedgehog Hollow Facebook group community as well. Lots and lots of fun things go on in there. So come join us. I'm super excited to get to know you better. Also hit subscribe and ring the bell because we have daily tips, tricks, tutorials, or sometimes something a little bit different. You can join us for those, and also give us a thumbs up. It really does help us. So thank you so much for joining me. I cannot wait to show you tomorrow's video because it's something really special. So join me then, and in the meantime, have a crafty day. Bye.